Please welcome to the stage Paul Kwan, the Managing Director at General Catalyst, where he leads their global resilience practice. Paul, come on out.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Hell of a time to be in defense tech and
It is.
investing and the intersection there.
It's like there's a defense tech event somewhere in the US every week. I think there's like two.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably our fault. I mean,
Exactly.
we're here right now. What's top of mind as we're sitting here?
So this is our 25th anniversary at GC. Our first defense investment was 21 years ago. I feel like there's all of this momentum. There's $10 billion going into the market this year, but we're all playing different sports. I feel like we all have the same mission, but we're playing baseball over here, football, hockey, and we're not fully aligned on stuff. And so I do think if we step back and think about where are we all coming from, that's going to be really important. And so at the risk of being trite, I think a lot about like empathy, education, and then evolution. So I don't know if we can talk about this. Yeah, the triple E's. I don't know if we can go that route, but.
So let's run through that real quick. Empathy, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean everyone playing on the same team, everyone understanding each other, or is that like, oh, I feel so bad for you?
No, it really means understanding where you're coming from. So the veterans on my team are constantly reminding me, defense tech is the only industry in the world where the users of those products may freely and willingly sacrifice their lives to use that product. It's very serious. And a lot of innovators don't fully understand the seriousness of that. I was with a CEO of one of our companies recently, and I asked, if you could fix one thing with your culture, what would it be? And they instantly said, I wish that every time there was a problem with a customer, that my team would think it's our fault. If we could just ramp the empathy on our side because of what I just said. So I mean, it really is, Colin, like understanding where people come from. But you go around the stakeholders. People have to understand from the innovation economy standpoint, we're deploying $10 billion into defense tech. That's 60% more than the combined R&D spending of the 4 defense primes. Risk capital is going in, energy is going in, the flywheel is turning. Something sort of needs to happen to keep that flywheel going as well.
I mean, that's high risk, right? We're talking about $10 billion here.
And it's people always ask, like, who are these investors in VC firms? 30% of the investors in General Catalyst are state pension funds who are expecting returns in excess of the S&P 500, which is that risk. That's the risk we take. That's the risk entrepreneurs take. But that's that flywheel, Colin. So again, when I think of empathy, it's like just understanding where people are coming from. And then lastly, with policymakers too, like, all the effort going in, it's tough because you don't control execution and implementation. So again, more empathy then allows you to get educated. And I just want to give a few examples. I think this education point sounds obvious, but it's actually very powerful. We were very privileged to have a 3-star join us before they took change of command to a 4-star position. Instead of going on vacation, this person came to the West Coast, spent a few days meeting startups and innovators. And after 3 days, they said at dinner, I get it now. You guys invest in a bunch of companies. Some of them will be winners. Some will go to zero. But it kind of has to work out that way to keep this flywheel going.
I'll say, does this whole cycle depend on winning? At least to some degree.
Somebody winning. It doesn't have to be our company. Somebody, I think, has to, again, if nobody delivers the best solution, understood. But if there is a company delivering a better solution, cheaper, better, faster, then try and make that happen. I was in a board meeting last week, and we asked, hey, what can we do to help you guys? This is a winner in our parlance. They've got contracts. They're well-known. It's multi-billion. And the comment was, I wish you could write an op-ed piece that every GS-15 would read. And it'd be explaining venture to GS-15s. That venture is not the same as private equity. That venture is not out to cut costs, increase prices. That venture only wins if that company becomes a $10, $20 billion outcome, has to deliver multiple programs. So that's sort of the education I'm talking about. I could go on and on. It's really important to us that we bring these worlds together. There was this great program in the DoD called the Shift Ventures program, run by Mike Slaw. 300 active duty people went through, was canceled. 3 of them worked at GC. One of them became a full-time investor and is now running an AI business. So yes, stuff like that, Colin, is about intentional education. Once you have empathy, then you can be educated.
On the education part, how are other defense investors defining winner, right? Is it SIBRs? Is it OTAs? Is it a $5 billion contract?
I think there's a lot of focus on programs of record. I think that's a shortcut. I think that's a bit myopic. I think that for sure OTAs are better. Phase 3s are obviously exciting. I think that what we need to have is we need to have more signal of demand from the DoD to help fund these startups. But it's binary. As many of you know, I mean, these things all got signed in the last 5 days of the quarter, right? I mean, half of these businesses, September 25th was a big day, 26, 27. So I think, again, if you can get more phase 3s out there, OTAs would be great, but I think also contracts. But again, I don't want to be obsessed with programs of record.
Are you seeing clearer signals from this administration versus any prior? I feel like there's a bunch of people in the Pentagon that have a business money background.
Yeah, I think that is the huge opportunity. You don't have to, you can't avoid the front page news. I think that's where the trickle down from policy in the administration to execution gets stuck in the sticky middle. And so that gets back to the GS15 comment. Like, do they understand how venture works, how it's not private equity, that engine, Colin? So yeah, for sure, it feels like that's moving, aggressively. I was with the OSC team yesterday on a Zoom. They're making big strides, around rare earths. But again, once we have empathy and education, then we can evolve the business model.
Yeah.
So to do my little 3 E's, how do we evolve the business model? We have to have the public-private partnerships. We talked about, obviously, the MP materials and all that, the OSC work. We have to have the partnerships between primes and startups. Booz has been, very vigilant on that front. Lockheed as well. I think some of the startups later today are going to make some big announcements on stage about that. We have to have more roll-ups, not typical private equity roll-ups, but innovation technology roll-ups where you aggregate scale and critical mass to fight through the valley of death. And you have to be super creative. So, I appreciate you covering the launch of Valinor last week, which I co-founded with Julie Bush, formerly of Palantir, which is inverting the venture capital model. Instead of starting with products and adding sales, start with sales and add products later, which gives you incredible flexibility and speed to build what the customer wants. And as you know, they've built 10 product companies in a little bit over a year and have real revenue very quickly. So just more evolution of the business model, I think, is really critical.
To that point about Valinor, do you think more people, to steal Julie's words, should focus on those picks and shovels versus those moonshots? Should there be more people in this space trying to fix simple ideas before they, I'm going to go build my own Golden Dome?
I mean, obviously, that was the idea in founding it, was we need to build the 80% of stuff, not just the moonshots. But if nobody builds the moonshots, we don't solve the moonshots. I mean, that is the beauty of the American capitalist venture flywheel, is someone's got to go take that massive risk and push through things that don't seem possible, Colin. So it's a twofer. With Valinor, we saw that nobody was going to build that next-gen medical clinic in a container that's bulletproof and amazing, right, from a venture capital standpoint. So yes, I wish there were more of those. And it's not just that stuff. I think with like AI, I think, former Secretary Leon Panetta was talking about, like, the AI stuff is moving super fast. We all know it. If we don't get on that bandwagon quickly and evolve, right? I think Sam from Method Security is here. I think we have to be much more offensive on cyber. And so they're working on offensive cyber stuff. We have to evolve the business model. So again, that's another key thing we're focused on.
I want to jump back to you mentioned MP materials, right? That was a huge headline. A lot of people are interested in that. What's your read on that deal? Do you think it was a good move, a bad move, and then maybe more crucially, are we going to see more moves like that from like DoD?
You tell me, man. No, it sounds like we will. I mean, it sounds like that has to move. Some of these categories are really challenging, right? From a permitting, capital intensity, just scaling up. I mean, it's just hard, and we have to do these things. Yeah. I would say that my parting comment would be like, as a representative of the innovation economy, we can absolutely do these things. We have a company called Slate Auto. It's going to build a $25,000 car, fully made in the U.S., entire U.S. supply chain. Nobody thought they could do it. Car's not out yet. Comes out next year. They've got over 100,000 people on the waiting list. If we pull it off, we can do it. We have some really cool industrial manufacturing things that are moonshots. We have a fusion moonshot called Pacific Fusion. Again, not trying to pitch our particular portfolio, Colin, but like, there are projects, there are things we're doing that are absolute moonshots that we can do in America. I think sometimes when we just pick up, the headline news, we feel like we've sort of lost it. But I really think if you just step back, things are really, really happening.
One of the first times, we spoke, it was for the Q&A series in Future of Defense. And one of the questions is, what are people overlooking? And you said biodefense.
Oh, great memory, man.
Great times.
Yeah, I haven't found the biodefense.
I'll say, has that changed at all? Like, is biodefense still kind of, not ignored is not the right word, but...
I think it's still ignored, huge risk. People that know it's a huge risk. I'd love to work on something there. I haven't found it yet since we last talked, but it's a huge gap.
And the last question here, as we're running out of time. I've talked to many people on the record, off the record, on background about a defense VC bubble. Some of these numbers are getting very big. I think everyone's talking about it, but not very loudly. Do you have thoughts about that? Are we in a bubble? Will it burst, et cetera?
I mean, it's very frothy. There's a lot of action. The fact that there's multiple conferences per day, per week. But if you look at, the $2 trillion between the US and Europe that will be spent in defense tech within the next 3 years per year. I mean, that is the biggest market out there. And so does half of that get spent on new tech? Who knows? So I could make one argument that yes. Is it frothy? Absolutely. But thirdly, this is what it takes, Colin, to build. This is capitalism. You got to get the best people, focus on the biggest problems with capital. And if we can reward the winners that have the best products, the cheapest, best, fastest stuff, we'll win. But it's part of the flywheel.
It's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Paul, we're going to have to leave it there. Appreciate your insights today.
Thanks.